right. Three, two, one. Welcome, everybody, to the Interstice podcast. I want to introduce Victor, who is a fantastic photographer, creator, has a YouTube channel. We've collaborated over the years, and he's been kind enough to come on today and grace us with his presence. So thank you very much for being here, Victor. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Very, very gracious intro there. I think I'm okay, but yeah, I'm trying. Thank you
Oh
so
no,
much.
man, you're fantastic. I would say, well, you're following now. I think the last time I checked, it's at about 15K. Is that
I
correct on
think I
Insta?
just reached like 16K like
Oh,
a couple
okay,
weeks ago.
okay, awesome. So, and I would say that's murderously underappreciated for the quality of content on your feed. So soon enough, we'll see you up in the millions. Soon enough, it'll be great.
Soon enough, I'll be happy with like 25 or 20K though, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Well, let's just you and I. I mean, it's cool. I think we've enjoyed a sort of like professional relationship where most of the
Mhm.
times that we are hanging out, it's that we're working on something. But I've always had the feeling that like to me the work is play, so it feels
Mhm.
less professional. It's more like a friendship. But we haven't spoken in a while, so I was wondering like
Yeah,
how have you been? What have you been
I've
up to? How are you? You look
I've
good.
been
You look healthy.
busy. Healthy, I don't know. It's like this whole Rona situation's got
Hmm.
everybody staying at home. So obviously, I need to take care of the beard a little bit more than I have been, but not going out, not meeting people kind of just lets you kind of be lazy at home.
Sure.
But since the last time we met, what was that, like 2018 or so?
Probably.
Like
That's
like in
what's
person,
wild.
right?
Yeah, 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 for
Yeah.
sure. Long time.
Yeah, so obviously I switched jobs. I'm working at a new job right now that basically caters to my natural talents. I'm working as a quality assurance engineer for like back end software stuff,
That's
basically
awesome.
working with APIs and stuff and making sure that customers don't break it or hack into our computer thingamajiggies online.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
but that's what I'm doing full time right now. I love the job. It pays well. That's number one. Um, and
That's
two,
key.
it allows me the freedoms to basically take care of my hobby, which is like photography and videography and stuff on the side. So I mean, aside from this job, I've just been using kind of like whatever free time I had, pre-Rona, to just go around Japan and go travel and take pictures and try to give my Instagram and photography a little bit more of a kind of professional kick as opposed to the hobby that I treated it as before.
And that's awesome. I saw like I've been really enjoying your reels, which seem to be doing quite well when I've seen them in there. Like they're just I really do love the reels format. Is this kind of like micro art, you like
Mm,
whether you like it seem, you've taken from what I've seen, it's like just beautiful locations and you tell this whatever the story is 15 seconds, 30 seconds. And it's really beautiful. I'd seen, correct me if I'm wrong, but you sit up there with Johannes in Nagano and you guys went to that like
yes.
temple up there?
Yeah, he
That's
was the
so
one that
cool.
actually invited me out. He told me about the snow monkeys over in
Okay.
Jigokudani. And unfortunately, the weekend that we were going to go there, there was a sudden breakout of the Rona in that town, where like
Okay.
50% of the population in the town had it. So we were
Whoa.
just like, no, no, we're not gonna do that. Well, like, what else is there to do? And Johannes was like, well, there's this one kind of shrine. I was just like, another boring shrine. And he said Togakushi Shrine. I was just like, okay, yeah, I guess we could do that. But then he sent me the pictures, and I was just like, that place. I've been
Okay.
dying to go to that place. So I would toss the monkeys off a cliff in a heartbeat just to go here. So I literally took the Shinkansen Friday night, met up with him. We took a bus early in the morning and spent all day at Togakushi Shrine, and then went back, went to Izakaya to eat, and then went home. So it was like a full 24-hour adventure.
Man, that's awesome. That one part that like it's iconic. I feel like I've seen it and not known what I was looking at. Are
Mm-hmm.
I think they're cedar
Cedar,
trees,
yeah,
but
cedar trees.
man, just like prehistoric looking, ancient, massive, glorious trees. It's so beautiful. And I mean, in the snow, right? It adds this
Yes.
other like layer of utter beauty to it. No, it's so cool. So cool.
Yeah, we were extremely lucky with the weather because we didn't have like the wet snow or like the hard snow. It was very kind of like fluffy, light-weighted snow. So during the entire time we were there, it was just falling very gracefully all the way down, and it just gave an amazing atmosphere with trees and the shrine and everything. It was more than I could have ever asked for.
Oh man, that's awesome. And did you say you made it? Was it a day trip you went up for, or
Yeah,
did you stay? Okay, day trip, right on. Very cool. It's pretty accessible from Tokyo, right? Like I mean,
surprisingly, yes, yeah.
and I did a little bit of 3 days for New Year's. I went up snowboarding in Nagano, so I did the like trip down from Ibaraki and then up that way, and I was blown away. It was like I can't. What is it like 3 hours from Tokyo on the
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Shinkansen? Yeah, just so cool, so convenient, and then boom, like whole new world, right? Like you're in the mountains all of a sudden. It's just
Yeah.
yeah, that's so very very cool.
I
Oh,
mean, that's
so
like one of the main things that I love about Japan, just the fact that even if you're in Tokyo and if it's like hot outside, you could just hop on a Shinkansen and you're just taken to a brand new place.
it's so true. It's so true. The whole north to south thing in Japan is really really awesome. Just like in a way that actually, I mean, this I'm curious when I think about Canada, right? Because we have like an intense north to south, but it's like, of course, where Canadians mostly live is like the border, really. They live
Yeah.
tucked up against the border and on the coast, so you don't get that same sense where it's kind of like out of necessity in Japan that you appreciate the polar ends of it, you know?
hmm
Have you, when you said you've been like trying to do some more traveling around in your time, what else have you been doing? Where have you gone? What's something you've
Um,
enjoyed?
I went to Yamagata Prefecture and that was amazing. I got to hit up Yamadera, which is like this shrine temple structure, this huge thing that's just basically built on the side of a cliff of a mountain. And that was absolutely amazing. That was really cool. And then we actually got to hit up Ginzen Onsen, which is, that amazing onsen that has like a magical winter snow, like Ghibli-esque kind of view. And that we stayed literally all day for. We arrived around like 10 in the morning, and then we left around like 10 in the evening. Had to go walk about like 2 kilometers back to our car.
That's so cool. I'm looking. I'm so forgive me. I'm on your Insta right now. I'm looking at your reels. Did you say is here it is Ginzan Onsen? Is that the one you mentioned?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This is some very cool stuff.
Yeah, that reel for some reason did really good. I guess the whole timing of when I put it out was just like impeccable. I got really lucky.
Man, yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 115K. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
can't nothing to sniff at there.
Well, like the only reason this is what I'm thinking. The only reason it got such a popular hit was because when I had it ready to go and was getting ready to post it,
Yeah.
it was Hayao Miyazaki's birthday.
Okay.
Just that evening at 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm looking at my Twitter feed and I'm seeing everybody saying, "How happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday." And I'm just like, wait, but people think this is like super Ghibli-esque and it's like a spirited away vibe. All right, let's do some hashtag research. So and I threw in some like Ghibli tags. I threw in like happy birthday, like a mention to Hayao Miyazaki, and then I shared it. And I think that kind of got the bandwagon
On
rolling. I
board.
think that alone was the only reason why it did so well.
It's so fascinating, isn't it? Just like, I mean, that can be its own tangential story in what you're telling there. How, like, things are so interconnected and to the moment. Like you've said, it's this one special moment that really sparked that. That's so cool. Of course, you took some initiative, like you said, with the tags
Mhm.
there, but that it has to be that moment
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that catches it onwards. That's really, really cool. What are
But it's been
you.
fun
Sorry,
for the
go
most
ahead.
part. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I think I was gonna say like it's been fun. The whole reel thing has actually just been an experiment as a whole. For me to try to practice my editing skills, storytelling skills, I guess if you could call it that, to try to make my way back to YouTube.
Okay, okay. I get that for sure. Talking about thing like I said, now it comes to me here. I was like, why is it that you like the Reels Day? Because I said that, but it's one of the things I love is where on YouTube, of course, for even if you're going to make something like a 5-minute video, you could easily spend, upwards of 10 hours on that.
Mm,
But with 15 seconds, you can make something so beautiful and you can dedicate a real effort to it that you're not half-assing, but you can complete it, and you can
Mhm.
probably complete it within like 3 hours, if that's like, or maybe
I
two or something.
wish.
But
I
uh,
wish.
oh, okay,
Every
okay.
single one of my reels takes 24 to 36 hours.
All right. Okay. So but then probably highlighting the point even more. Were you in the longer format? How
I was
efficient it
using like,
is.
hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is because you only have to worry about 15 to 30 seconds, but it presents a lot of new challenges that you don't really expect or ever run across to when you're actually doing like a YouTube video. A
Like
YouTube
and
video
such
doesn't
as,
have a
tell me.
maximum. Well, like a YouTube video doesn't have a maximum length, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to a maximum length, it doesn't matter if your B-roll runs a little bit over. Okay, just add it in. Just if it looks nice, you cut things and add things as you need. But with the whole 15 seconds to 30 seconds, you have to be able to tell somewhat of a story or get people into the ambiance. But how could you do that when each shot is 2 to 3 seconds long,
Mm-hmm.
or even like an extra second? That matters, yes or no. And to top that off, you have the music to worry about. How are you going to get music to kind of get people in the mood within 15 seconds? And on top of that, finding music that fits within those 15 seconds is almost impossible.
Mm-hmm.
For every single one of my videos here, the original song is either at a different BPM than it initially came because I had to speed it up or shorten it down in order to get it to fit.
I see.
And in some tracks, I actually had to splice 3 second, 4 second sections in order for it to fit smoothly together. Because, oh, this song seems like it would fit perfectly, but only 7 seconds of it sounds good as an intro and as an outro, but I have to make these seconds turn into 15, 30 seconds. How do I splice everything together and make it still sound smooth?
So you're saying the somewhat the limitations of it are creating new challenges. Would that be
Correct,
fair?
correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, definitely, definitely, definitely.
No. Okay. Yeah. I get that. I appreciate that for sure. No. But I mean, it sounds like, well, clearly you've been having success again with it. Do you find a preference for them over YouTube, or is it more just this is another medium and another thing to be able to create in, or?
Well, like to be honest, like it originally started as a test, because I'm definitely a lot more analytically minded as opposed to creative. I'm not very artistic whatsoever. I'm very analytical. Here's XYZ, etc., and I know what I'm gonna get. I know what I'm gonna put into this. So it originally started as a test because when Reels was introduced by Instagram, I heard a rumor through a friend that basically Instagram is trying to push out their new product. So if you jump on the Reels bandwagon, there you have a potential for them to kind of basically shout you out and basically share your content because they want more creators start using this more and more and
Yes.
more.
Yes.
So obviously, I jumped in on that.
Mm-hmm.
So on the first couple reels that I did for their time, they did pretty decent.
Okay.
And it wasn't until the third one that I did where I got 100,000 views, um, where I was like, okay, this seems to be working, and compared to another account that I use for test purposes specifically, I was comparing the amount of engagement and the amount of impressions that I was getting between these two accounts, my
Mm-hmm.
main one and this other one that I use specifically for testing. And the one that I use for my main one for Reels was getting about like a 15 to 10% more impression and engagement overall on the account itself.
Mm-hmm.
So coupling this in mind, me and a couple of the friends started putting our data together, and yeah, we were like super Excel sheet nerds. Uh, but we started seeing like, okay, well, like Instagram, okay, if you post at least like a reel a week or so, Instagram is like tends to prefer the account. If you don't post something, then it seems like your engagement takes a negative hit. So they're really pushing this real thing, and it makes sense because what 3 months or 2 months later, they basically changed the entire interface of Instagram, where now your center button, instead of your likes and notifications, your center button was now like some random Reels thing that's very synonymous to what you see on TikTok.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Talking about like fascinating algorithm details that they had recently. I can't remember his name, but he does good stuff. The videos are very well produced. He's quite successful. I think his name's like Chris Ha or something like that, or Chris. It's like Hau or something like that. He
Chris
was
Howe? Oh, he's a Canadian
how
dude, right?
I I know that he does good stuff. The videos I've watched, I like. They're very well produced, but I don't know him that well, much as he
Hmm.
is very successful. But he was talking about how there's a new, like, they're always tweaking the algorithm, and he said like
Hmm.
something, I don't know where he would have this information, but he seemed earnest. It seemed genuine that the thing that they've done now is, what they do is, once you post something, they're always looking for you, the user, to be engaged on the platform, of course.
Hmm.
So when you post, what they'll start to do, if you exit out of the application, the longer you're away from the application, the more that they'll extend the reach of your account, because what that means is that someone will like something, there'll be some interaction on your account, you'll get a notification, and it'll draw you back in. So he was saying, actually, what you should do, because then that drops off once you're back in the account, is post, but then resist the urge to then go and peruse whatever sort of engagement you have, at least for like the initial upload of the of whatever it is that you'd put on there, which I thought was kind. It's a kind of creepy net to
Hmm.
extend for them trying to get you back in. But if you're objective of it, then you were like, oh well, it's kind of like a healthy reason to take a break, where you're like, I'm actually taking a break only to get more engagement, but I am taking a break. I thought that was kind of funny.
I mean, I'm not sure how much in truth it is. I've seen that video
Okay,
itself,
you
and
have. Okay.
I've done a couple tests for maybe like 3 weeks in regards to this kind of like staying away. I didn't really see too much of a
Okay.
difference. It was
Okay.
always either -5 or plus 5%, so it was really kind of inconclusive.
Okay.
But all I'm saying is that if Instagram is implementing this kind of algorithm, that's pretty shady and pretty evil, to be honest, to be playing on people's addiction,
I mean,
specifically on like the FOMO of it, I guess.
to that part of addiction, because I was going to say they're
Yeah,
playing on addiction. Their whole design is based on addiction, and
yeah.
infinite scroll is based on addiction. It's
Mm.
but that would be a particularly, as in bird culture we would call that a dick move. That would
Yes.
not be a
No,
uh,
definitely, definitely.
but it fascinates me, just all this stuff going on behind the scenes. But very cool. I just love seeing people get creative, and especially using the new stuff that comes out in a meaningful way. And I don't do it to blow smoke up your ass. Like, I really enjoyed the reels that you've done. I'm curious, is
Hmm.
the coloring that's in your reels, are you doing coloring, or is that out of the box canon?
Oh no, no, no. I'm doing coloring.
Okay.
I'm like I said earlier, like I'm doing this to practice everything, color
Okay.
grading, color correction, and matching, from two different cameras as well.
Okay, very cool. Because yeah, I love the colors too. You got great results with the colors as well. It's really, really nice. Oh, right on. So you said two cameras. Are you like kind of shooting between two right now?
Yeah, I have the Canon EOS R, which is what you see right here.
Okay.
And I also have the old Canon 5D Mark III that I have.
Right. That's probably the one I'm more familiar with. Is the EOS
Correct.
R, is that the mirrorless? Is it the
That
mirrorless
is
one that they
the kind of like the first gen mirrorless that they had. It's like
Okay.
4 years old now.
Okay. What's your experience like with that one?
To be honest, I bought it and then I didn't use it for like an entire year.
Victor.
It just because like it was so frustrating to use. No, nothing was where I was expecting it to be. The new functionality was it just didn't match what I was used to with the 5D. I am very much an old man. I do not like change. Give me the same goddamn thing. Um, but my 5D broke down and
Okay.
like I had to go
I
send
remember
it in
that.
for like repairs, and I was like heartbroken because I mean this thing's been up Mount Fuji with me, 6, 7 times, right? This thing's
Okay.
been all around Japan with me, so it's very sentimental. I'm never gonna get rid of this. I'm always gonna make sure it's in tip-top shape. I don't care what the refurbishing standards are. But during that time, I needed a camera, so like I was forced to use it, and I was like, okay, fine. I guess I'm gonna spend the time to learn it. And ever since then, it's become my main camera.
Okay. Okay. What is, so I'm then curious because I just, as much as I love the art, I love the gear. I love it all. I'm curious, like, what do you like about it? What do what's your experience? Could you talk about it a little bit? What's that camera like?
I think it's just the expansion of what you can do with it. I mean, the 5D Mark III was limited to, only 1080 footage at like 30 frames per second.
Okay.
With this one, I could shoot, 120 frames per second at 720. I could shoot 4K. Even though it has a 1.71 crop, you could still shoot 4K with this, and the footage is beautiful.
Right
On
on.
top of that, when it comes to the actual like photography specs, it's almost similar to the same quality that you would get with the 5D Mark III.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like having my 5D Mark III, except for I could take much more better high quality video.
All
And
right.
the touchscreen, yeah, as much as I don't like to use the touchscreen is very useful because
Okay.
it has an electronic viewfinder, and God forbid I've tried using it so many times, but I just cannot get used to the electronic viewfinder. So I've
Okay.
kind of just defaulted to just looking at the small little screen that they have and using that as a base to judge my shots.
Right. Right. I see. I see. Okay.
Well,
What?
like the biggest reason why I don't like using the electronic viewfinder is because there's something that's extremely annoying about this camera that still pisses me off to this day,
Mm,
and that's it has some automatic sensor where if you put the camera close to the viewfinder, the LCD turns off.
okay.
But the sensor is so sensitive that if you put your thumb over it or if you put it close to your chest, the LCD turns off all the time. So it's always switching, and you're never able to constantly get the shot. So
All
I
right.
disabled the electronic viewfinder altogether. So the only thing that pops up is the LCD at all times.
Okay. Okay. Sounds like it's got a
And
bit of
there's no option to
personality.
have both of them on at the same time, which would be beneficial, or at least just make the sensor less sensitive.
Okay. Sure. Sure. Oh, that's interesting. I love hearing about this stuff. I heard it come by, but it was the kind of thing where I mean I wasn't in the market. I didn't have the money or anything. But I'm always curious the march of technology. Like and especially because, like you said, I think that was Canon's first foray into the whole mirrorless market, right?
Correct.
Which made it, that was quite a talking point at the time. Like they were doing that to begin with. I've been sort of
Hmm.
like fantasizing looking around these days at I guess it would be more like stills cameras. Like I was looking at I guess it would be the Sony R series body. Correct me if
Hmm.
I'm wrong, but I believe they're more the dedicated stills cameras. And then in the video side of things, like what is it, the A7S III came out, and that's all
Yeah,
kinds of like absolute
that is pretty much
wildness.
the king right now.
Right, right. No, it's a lot of fun. But when I think about it, there's some things I would actually even, well, not only would it be more in my price range, but I would more practically prefer, like I have had such a steep hill that I've gone through, but like my tripod is like this
Hmm.
huge, awkward, super heavy tripod that I first bought maybe like 7 years ago. But that's another thing I was curious. I was like, maybe one of these days having a nice tripod is invaluable, and like having one that's really, really portable,
Hmm.
it would be so nice. It would be great.
Yeah, except for those are pretty pricey. I mean, your best,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say best bang for buck, but if you're looking for quality and something that's really light and could handle the camera load, I mean, the Peak Design tripod would probably be best. But
Peak
unfortunately,
design?
that's like $1,000 though.
Ooh. I'll
The only
still
thing
write
that's
it
other,
down.
yeah, the only thing that's comparable would be the Gitzo. Uh, Gitzo, they make tripods that are carbon fiber, nice, small, compatible. But they're also a very, very, very pretty penny.
All right. Noted.
Yeah, I would have picked those up, but just the price was just too much for me.
Yeah, gotta be conscientious of these things. Well, we gotta be careful. Don't want to be irresponsible. And I'm always trying to kind of abide by like, what how much do you need this? Because a lot of the times it's like I should just get out the door and I should shoot with my camera. I should just find somewhere I could even set up the tripod. So I figure if I'm not even doing that enough, it really hasn't come to a head yet.
Yeah.
But I haven't.
I think for me, I've just been using the GorillaPod, and the GorillaPod has been doing a decent job for whenever I do need something. But there have been situations and times like when I went to Okinoin Cemetery over in Koyasan, where I want to take these shots at night,
Hmm.
but my vantage point is barely higher than my knee to the floor. So it was very difficult to get a lot of those shots. And obviously, I'm not going to be a jerk off and put like my gorilla pod on top of a grave or a cemetery like tombstone, like other J vloggers would. um, but yeah, it was very difficult. And I think during that time, having the Peak Design tripod or something similar probably would have been very, very beneficial.
Right on, right on. There was my next gear question I wanted to ask. What was what lenses do you have with the Canon, the EOS R or whatever, your mirrorless one?
The EOS R, I don't have any RF glass because the R series of cameras actually have a new mount, the RF.
Okay,
Um, I currently have an EF to RF mount adapter on this guy, and I'm
okay,
basically using a 35 millimeter lens here.
okay.
I have an 85 millimeter, 50 millimeter, 24 to and 24 to 70,
So sorry, once 35, 85, 24 to 70,
and a 50.
and a 50. Man, that's nice.
Yeah,
That's a nice
I have
range.
two other lenses, but they're so very, 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 very niche that I almost never use them. I have a 8 to 16 millimeter, but it's an APS-C kind of size lens, so I can use it on my full frame cameras, but it has like this super like uh, vignette on the side because it's basically too wide.
Okay,
And
okay, I
I
see.
have a 70 to 200 as well,
Whoa.
but
Okay.
it's damaged.
Ah, all right.
So the autofocus doesn't work, so just having to take that out and putting it on a tripod and then get it perfectly into focus and then taking a shot, the amount of time that that takes is way too much, so it's just not worth using it. But it's there if I don't know if I'm going to go bird watching or something.
Okay, cool, cool. Do you have a it's probably a question that you'd be like, actually, there's more nuance to this, Dave, and I couldn't just simply give you one answer. But for the hell of it, I'm curious. Like, do you have a favorite lens out of those that you like to shoot with, or what are you in the mood for nowadays?
Oh, I shoot basically everything with my 35 millimeter these days.
Okay,
It's just such a beautiful lens, and the image quality that I get from it is amazing. But I'm in the market for a new lens. I definitely want to go pick up the RF 15 to 35 millimeter.
so was the RF? Did you say that was the new mount for this
That's the new
particular
mount.
type?
Yeah.
Okay, and you
So
said,
the glass that's
yeah.
on that is like very high quality.
Okay,
Probably even more than like this L series lens. Um, and even though it's a 15 to 35, at 15, it would give me that wide angle that I do not have anything comparable, even including the 8 to 16 that I have right now.
okay, very, very, very cool, very cool. Here's a question for you: is there anyone's content that you've found, like when I say I mean like photography, videography, anything that's like inspired you recently? Is there anybody you've looked around and been like, wow, that's really cool stuff coming out of that person?
There's this guy that's been around for a while, and his name is Sean Tucker.
Sean Tucker. Okay, I'm gonna write that down.
And he's very much all about the kind of like the philosophy and the creative process as a whole. And he has a decent sized following, but like the way he speaks about the subjects, it's very from the heart. It's very from like the mind.
All right, I like
He
it.
talks about, like what is your purpose with photography? Don't get stuck in the slog of, just followers. Don't
Hmm.
be worried about like just following other people and copying other people. You learn, grow, but you have to do it for yourself as well. And
Awesome.
just that mentality of creating, and he covers a wide range of topics, and it really spoke to my core because the only other people that I've been introduced with is like gear
Hmm.
review, gear review, gear
Hmm.
review, and it's just like, okay, there's a very famous, not famous, there's a very funny video that I saw during the Christmas break where basically like this guy, he he goes into a room and the room's barren, gets a stool, puts it to the middle of the room, gets a green screen, sets it up, you can see it putting on in the background, gets a really nice boom pole for a microphone, gets that set up, gets his really huge lights, one over here, key light over here, key light over here. He gets the C500 camera, which is like a cinema lens camera. He puts it up, puts on his Manfrotto tripod, gets everything set, puts the lavalier mic. Okay, ready to go. Okay, hits record, and he goes, "All right, my name is blah blah blah, and I'm going to teach you on why gear doesn't matter."
Yeah. That's okay. That was yeah, I enjoyed, man. There was like, I can't remember, there was some reel that I saw recently, and it was one of these like photographers on Instagram be like, and the guy was, and what it is this guy's got like, at first it seems like one camera, and he's like, oh sorry, that's my Sony A7R4, let me get that out of the way, and then he's like, oh, and the next one behind that camera is another body, he's like, oh, that body's in the way, that's the A7S3, sorry about that, and he goes like through three, and then as soon as he gets them all out of the way, he was like, now we're going to talk about why gear doesn't matter. Where I was like, yes, it is that. There it is again. Yeah, kind of funny. No, that's
Yeah.
to find balance in that, because I like gear, because it's like, to me, it's, gear is kind of an art. You know, like the way that it's crafted, the personality in it, like you discussing, you know, like the electronic viewfinder and all of that stuff. But of course, that it's way easier. It's always easier to think that that's what it is that's going to give you a better result, as opposed to, I mean, you know what it is? It's almost easier also to be creating something better with that than it is to come up with something original, or like to learn some new technique, or to understand, say, maybe the like basic functionality of the camera more. So I do appreciate that. Do you so you're, what kinds of things are you doing? Like what kind of content are you seeing out of him? Is it urban? Is it a mix? Is it portraits? Like what sort of stuff is he doing?
Um, the Sean Tuck guy,
Yeah,
it's more kind of like landscapes and
landscapes.
a little bit of street. He does some portraits. Very, very professional guy. But just yeah, just love his work. Anytime he posts something, I pretty much just watch it immediately.
Awesome. That's cool. There's I have one guy like that. I mentioned him a few times. He's a really young guy, but I mean he's very professional, and he's really creative. I love how artistic he's like.
Is he
He
Aiden Robbins?
Yeah, yeah. I
I
really
knew it.
really like.
The second that you said he's a young guy, I was like, I know who he's talking about.
Yeah, just fantastic. Like really genuine. I so like, and as soon as you make something, you appreciate the effort that's going into stuff. Obviously, we become more efficient at creating things the more that we know. But
Hmm.
like, you watch his video on Reels, just like he's just telling people like how, you know, he's gonna make a reel. And it's like one of the most beautiful videos you've watched. It's so beautifully produced, and there's such care taken with it. I love it. And then his creative stuff, like some of the shots that I saw, like there was this one really cool shot where he was out, he goes for this walk in the snow, and the snow is falling, and it's a simple thing to do, but it's like pure art, where what he's done is he's moved his camera down. His camera moves with the snow. So it was
Hmm.
like, that's a cool way to like immerse you in the feeling of falling, and not only falling like, but falling with the snow. It's like little things like that in his stuff that he
Hmm.
makes that I just really like, really like what he's doing. And I've learned a lot. Like I've watched his tutorials, whether it was like reels or some of the coloring that he does, but just a force for good in the creative world, I'd say.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. He's extremely talented. But that's the one thing, like watching him just makes me kick myself so much because it's like you said, he comes up with these small things that like nobody else would ever thought, and it's so easy. And that's just kind of proof of his artistic talent, you know?
Mm.
And I don't have any of that. So
Oh,
when I
you're
go
too
out to
humble.
these
You make
places,
beautiful art. Come on, Victor. Come on.
no, no, like I'm serious. I go out here, I go out to these beautiful places, and I'm just like, what the fuck do I do? So like for like one reel, I
Mm.
take God knows, maybe like hours upon footage. You know, I have to sort through like 200, 300 videos at a time just for one reel because I don't know what the story is in my head. I don't
Mm.
know what it is that's going to be appealing. So I'm in just shoot everything mode. And it isn't until I get home and I categorize everything and I rename everything that I'm just like, okay, well, what would make sense? How to get from A to B? Okay, let's grab these. Oh, this is interesting. This pops out a little bit. Let's put that in here. But Aiden Robbins is like, it just feels that like 3 months beforehand, before he even gets a glimmer of this one reel, he already has like ideas roaming in his head.
With your process, how do you feel about it? Like, I mean, obviously I sense some frustration with you where you're like, it doesn't feel organic. It feels like categorized and analytical, but like, where's your sense of enjoyment? Like, I don't want to assume that you have to enjoy it. Some artists are like, it's a sort of, it's a give and take. It's a love and hate thing they have going on. But I'm curious for you, what's like your feeling of your process?
I abhor it.
Okay. Yeah, that's why I wanted
And
to
I
leave
mean
room.
that in the and I mean that in the truest sense of the word.
Okay.
I abhor it. It's something I do not look forward to. It's something I'm not happy creating. And it's something that like caused me to take a break at the beginning of the new year. Up until now, I haven't posted
Okay.
anything in several weeks. And it got to the point where it just got so frustrating that I was like, I'm not happy. Why am I doing this? Like, I'm not getting anything in return. And I don't give a shit about the likes that I get. I don't give a crap about my follow number. I enjoy the people who actually follow me and interact with me because I reply to every single message and I try to be as friendly as I can. That I do care about. But the number that follows my name, I don't care. I have no care in the world about. So that really made me kind of think at the beginning of the year of like, what am I doing this for? What is the goal? If it's not making me happy, then why am I putting such extreme effort into this? You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we should always be asking that question, and as soon as it veers off into a pure numbers game, then you should be, what would I say? Like, I I don't, maybe worried is too strong a word, but I would be concerned. I mean, we just have more and more evidence of people on any social platform that what a black hole that is. That if you associate it with analytics, if analytics is the end, then you'll never be happy because analytics could be in, as many humans as there are on the planet, and then however many times that they could interact with you. It's literally infinite, so it's a black
Yes.
hole for your soul. So I mean, good for you for being cognizant of it. I don't have too many people in the creative world, but it's a concern I have for myself, and so then therefore like a concern for anyone I know that's involved with it, because it's it also has this other element to it too, that it's so tied into our dopamine system, right? Like whether we want to admit that or not, when we see any kind of engagement, we're trained. Like, we're not trained, we're evolutionarily designed to have a reaction to this, but whether it's healthy or not, well, that's an entirely different question. And that's, I think it's great that you're questioning that kind of thing, because I like, where I see that is like, I watch people that I like, and I'll feel like or that I like and respect. It's the classic, it's the green-eyed monster, where you watch it and I feel like a negative feeling and I'm like, what the hell is that? And immediately I have to think or take a step back or like reassess or remind myself, like, what are you doing? How do you engage with stuff? Because it's just, and I don't think it ever goes away. It's something that you have to be vigilant with whenever you engage with this kind of stuff. It's a weird world we live in, and I mean, in one hand, it's kind of really exciting because to me, it's sort of a return to like a pioneering spirit where there's so much that's like kind of unexplored in this world, and there's always new frontiers opening up everywhere. But those new frontiers are fraught with peril, like mental peril in this sense, usually. But they're definitely a side of the coin where if you don't go in aware of them, that's how they can blindside you even worse. If you're not thinking about how you could just get sucked into like a pursuit of pure fame or whatever, well, then you won't realize that you've now started to head down that path a lot of the time. No, that's really important. Not to talk at you there, but it's a subject like I feel passionately about. Just like you see people, it wasn't too long ago, there was somebody took his life on YouTube. I can't remember. I think it was like an African American guy. He may have been
Etika.
Perhaps, I'm not sure, but yeah, like and I think he left a note, and his suicide note was something along the lines of like, it just became a black hole. I'm sorry that I became this way, but I was in such a pursuit of something that would never make me happy. And it was one of these classic examples where he, by many people's standards, would have been considered incredibly successful.
Mhm.
And so illustrating the point that it won't matter where you are, it'll always feel empty, which is, perhaps one of the scariest things of all.
That is very scary, and it's something that I always tend to remind myself about in regards to this. I mean, that's the reason why I took a break,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't because I was so like, oh man, why am I not at like 20,000 followers yet? But it was more just like, I hate the creative process
Yeah.
because it's just reminding me of my own, I wanted to say the word deficiency, but it's not deficiency, my own lacking of natural talent when it comes to storytelling.
Do you?
And it's,
Sorry,
go
no,
ahead.
no. I just talked for like 5 minutes. Please shut me up. Talk. Continue.
So,
Please continue, Victor.
no, well, like the thing that's frustrating for me is because, like, if you know me, I'm behind the scenes a lot when it comes to like YouTube content creators here in Japan. Like, I've done video work for a lot of like the major, YouTube creators, and I'm friends with a lot of the major YouTube creators out here in Japan. And the thing is, just like I see the amount of work that they put into this, and for them, where this is their livelihood, I could understand why they put so much work into the content that they create. And I don't think the normal person who's watching the videos really understands just how much work they're putting in to this. So I have an immense respect to kind of like the big creators, the middle creators that are putting out all this content on YouTube. But the thing that frustrates me, the thing that pisses me off
Do tell.
is that I hold myself to the same standards of the type of quality that they put out. Because in my mind, well, this little dumb little monkey brain of mine, I'm thinking, well, I've hung around these big, creators for so long, so many years. I've seen how they work. I've seen how they prepare. I've seen how they edit, how they create this content itself. And I keep thinking to myself, well, like I know exactly what they do to make these videos. So you'd figure by osmosis, I would be able to retain some of that talent as well. But when it comes to creating my own work, it does not work that way.
When you say
And I think that's
talent, though,
frustrating.
it sounds like a lot of where the talent lies is in the amount of work that they're putting into it. Whereas talent is more. My sense of it is like this, thing by grace. It's this thing we don't even know where it comes from. But it does sound like in this case, these people are putting in the hard, grindy work, which is more just a question of grit and hours and sweat and tears and all that.
I'd like to believe it's half and half because you have to have some initial kind of talent in order to be able to grow in the first place.
Hmm.
You learn the rest as you go. Um, what was I gonna say? I completely like lost my track of mine. But for me, okay, wait, I remember now. For me, because I've been behind the scenes so much, I'm basically just like the Japanese citizen who learned English through school, reading a textbook and reading everything about grammar, reading everything about the conjugation of verbs, reading everything about sentence structure. But they go to Tokyo Station and a gaijin comes up to them and asks, "How do I get to this place?" They freeze up because they realize as much as they're a pro and could probably get 900 on their TOEIC, when it comes to actual practice, they've never done it. So
Okay,
they're going to suck at it.
I see.
And it's just exactly like you said, it's a skill. If you don't use it, if you don't practice it, if you don't actually apply it, you're never going to improve.
For sure, for sure. And it is, it's surprising how much you could equate it to actually like an instrument. I've appreciated that more and more over the years because a lot of it enters into muscle memory. This sort of like, say you have a cool edit that you like to do. Who cares what it is? We don't even need to aim it, but by virtue of repeating it in the software, you not only, especially given how complex these softwares are, and just like in an instrument, you start to really do it like without even thinking, and so it becomes like you offload a lot of the effort that it would initially take into your muscle memory, and then you can, like, just like an artist might enunciate a note or a bend, they might add an extra squeal into, on a guitar. They could manipulate an effect in a way that's tweaked slightly from what they might have usually done in the past. Like, they really do hone it. Like, this would be a good example, actually. Masking transitions, you get some sort of solid object, you go by the object, and then that basically brushes the screen. So it's like, oh, how did we end up here? Drawing the masks, like using the pen tool, like getting used to doing that. It's like, it's no different than, the skill of drawing, but it's then, transported into this digital medium. It's that's another really cool topic, is just like it's not, and that it touches so many things, right? Like that there's the actual framing of a shot. There's the understanding of light. I mean, I guess that's why I get so psyched about it. It is such a crossroads of art when you get into video, because then and then it goes into sound design. It goes into like the written word in the sense of story. It's just such an awesome crossroads. Now, you might not guess that when I make a video that talks about like social anxiety, because you're like, oh, it's more just about the topic. But then the art that can go into all the other pieces of it, again, like what people may not see, kind of like you said with the introduction, you're working with your reels, where you're like, in all honesty, it takes like 24 to 36 hours. It's the sort of thing where you may work on like the intro to a video. It's like 7 seconds of the video, but then it took you X number of hours to complete, and people are often like, the most frustrating thing, this is me being like a bleeding heart artist or whatever, is like, you put this effort into this, like what you feel is a cinematic masterpiece, you poured your heart and soul, and then somebody in the comments will be like, video starts at 20 seconds. And you're like, how dare you? That's like, no, the video starts when the video starts, you bastard.
That is so frustrating.
Yeah.
That is so frustrating. Yes, I know more. Yeah, I know very well that.
But it's all part and parcel. I understand this.
But I mean, at the same time, the thing that's kind of like really holding me back is just that, like, going back to like the amount of effort that creators put into their videos, right? For me, it's difficult for me to justify putting this amount of effort in videos, because one, it's just like, I have a full-time job. It's very cushy, I get paid well. I don't need YouTube revenue. I don't need Twitch subscribers. I don't need all this, right? I have a Patreon, for God's sakes, and I've never really like advertised it, but people have found it and they've pledged on Patreon, and like, it blows my mind, like the sincerity of like the people that kind of support me. So like, any money that I get from that, I put it back into the community as much as I can. But at the same time, it's just, I'm thinking to myself, it's like, I'm not a full-time creator. I don't want to become a full-time creator. I just want to keep this as a hobby.
Okay.
And because I want to keep this as a hobby, that's kind of like the invisible line that I've set for myself. That's basically just like, well, like, if you were a full-time creator and your livelihood depended on the amount of quality and the videos that you made, then yeah, all that effort is worth it. But for me, who's just using it as a hobby, it's just like, well, work was really frustrating today. I just got finished at 8 p.m. Oh God, I'm tired. All I want to do is just order a pizza and drink a beer and just call it a night. I don't want to feel in the back of my head of like, oh God, I haven't finished my reel for this week. If I don't finish my reel for this week, my engagement is going to go down 20% next week. I need to post something. Because I need to post something, I need to go to this park that has sakura. Oh wait, it's not in bloom yet. Okay, well that means I have to spend 4 hours to go to Kamakura or Shizuoka, because they have sakura that's going on only this weekend right now. And if I get that, then I'm going to beat all the other creators who are waiting for Yoyogi Park to bloom. I don't want to think like that. I just want to be like, hey, I'm here. I have my camera. That's cool. I'll take a picture. If it's good, I'll share it. That's my bar right now.
And I think it almost definitely contributes to the sort of objectivity to focus on being creative, right? Because I mean that's another thing too, is where if something becomes your livelihood, it does not to say that you can't still have this pure heart and do things reliably, creatively, and that's kind of what's motivating you. But it's way easier to run into, in the literal sense, it's commercialized for you because it's the thing that provides you your means to live. Whereas if you're not reliant on that and you only engage with it very, very specifically, only ever when you want to, probably far easier. Correct me if I'm wrong, but then to be able to do it as an artist 100%, because you're never running the risk of this being like born of commercial necessity, so it must be done like you just described now.
I mean, that's the entire goal, because to be honest, this will be like the real background of the whole frame of travel thing. I used to be in the marketing field from like 2014 to 2017 or so at my previous jobs, where they relied on me to learn everything about SEO, learn everything about Twitter, learn everything about like Facebook, Instagram, learn everything about ads. How do you market to people? How do you target people? How do you A/B test? How do you get everybody's attention, basically? And like, because it was my job at the time, I did it religiously. So I was studying like all these other websites. I was talking with other marketers. I was talking with this, and like I learned everything. It was such a huge hassle. But one of the main components that I try to do at a specific company that I worked for at the time, which was like, hey, there's our new Instagram account. We need to do this, and this to get followers. We need to be genuine when we talk to them. We can't just have a Twitter account that spams 5 links per day, but never engages with their audience. You know, we need to have fun with it. We need to have to actually like reach out to people. We need to share content, and we also need to, you know, reciprocate. I can't English right now.
That was
Reciprocate.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We need to reciprocate, you know, kind of like the excitement that people would get when they reply to this stuff. And the company was just really like, no, we don't care. We don't care. We just want 20 posts a day on Twitter. We want 5 posts a day on Instagram. We just want to spam. Typical Japanese company. And I told them, if we, you know what, it's my job. You tell me what to do, I'll do it. I'm not going to give 120% because jobs don't care about you. So you just give them what they want. You get paid for it and you go home, and that's it. So I did that, and I promised myself, I was like, you know what? If I ever create an account, I'm just going to do things the way that I want to do naturally and how I would do if I was treating it professionally. Frame of travel. Boom. And my initial goal as a big fuck you to that company was I would be happy when I beat them in followers. And I did that within 2 years.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Oh, that's funny.
And we're talking about a company who spend an average of $3,000 on their marketing budget a month.
Man, that's wild. That is absolutely
so that was my biggest you know, have you ever seen that what was the scene from the Dave Chappelle movie about getting high?
Half baked,
yeah, when he's in the burger place and he's like, F you, F you, F you, F you. That was my glory moment.
Oh, it's good to be free of that. Good to be free of that.
But I mean, after that was over, after I beat them in followers, I was just like, okay, the motivation of revenge is gone, so what do I do now? And that's basically when I started focusing on a little bit more of like a personal, more kind of side of me of like, hey, this is where I'm going. This is why I'm going. And I started writing down like a lot of like full paragraphs of just like, here's the story, here's where I'm at, and this is my experience. And that's people cool. Really kind of caught on to that, so I've been like really happy with it.
That's great. Do you have I'm curious if maybe you do, maybe you don't have a thought for like, what are some things you want to shoot, you want to create in the coming days and months?
It's a really good question. Like, I feel like I'm still on this break of mine. I really don't want to get hung up in the whole post of the season, post of the time kind of things. Like for right now, for example, right now everybody's pretty much putting out like Sakura content.
Okay.
pink flowers and everything everywhere. That's all you're gonna see for the next couple of days, maybe up until the end of March. Mostly because like the sakura season is going to be full bloom much faster this year than normal.
Right.
April's just going to be spring type pictures, flowers. You're going to see Hitachi no seaside over in Ibaraki. People are going to start posting that. It's all cyclical. Everything that's on Instagram, everything that you see is all cyclical. Everything that happened last year in April is going to get re-promoted again. You're going to have Meguro River blowing up within the next couple of weeks, regardless of whether it's in full bloom or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get overwhelmed with the feeling of like, well, if I don't follow the crowd, then I'm not going to get an audience. I'm not going to get seen. I'm not going to get views. So my goal for content is just trying to stay away from all that, finding new interesting places and
That's
just
cool.
covering and sharing that. And regardless if people like it or not, I don't care. At least at the end of the day, I could be true to myself and true to the artistic output that I want to create.
That's great. That's really, really good. And I mean, the truth, I was talking to a friend, I can't remember where it was, and it's like when you think of the true great artists, at least when I think of the ones that I'm like, that I've enjoyed, usually the reason that they were so appreciated, the reason that they're loved is that they're unique. That the reason that they rose above the rest is because that they weren't just a flavor of the week that matched the other flavors that were available at the time. Like what's his, Tom York from Radiohead was not like looking like a half beaten, like what highwayman, and singing like you're crying doesn't seem like a very popular like brand or whatever, but because it's like totally, it was them, and it's unique, and it's interesting for that reason. They rose to the top. You don't have to necessarily use like a music artist for it, but it's so, yeah, it does that contradicts trends, because trends are the things that, I guess that's what people are most using to popularize themselves. They look for trends, and then you get into a trend, you get recognized because you got popular in that trend, and then you're going to do whatever it is that you're going to do afterwards. But definitely not a recipe for your soul in terms of if like for someone who would think about legacy, you're like, I did this TikTok dance, and that's the one I got known for, like as opposed to
Talking
something
to your
really
children
cool.
over Christmas in front of the fireplace. I did this dance.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's cool. I've got like my focus, I guess. Well, I mean, I say that like it's one. It's obviously I want to get better at everything. I love practicing, like we're talking about practicing. Um, and I'm really excited to try and find more artists to work with. Some of them are just kind of like immediate friends. When I've been going to Kyoto, there's a couple people there more who have just become
Mhm.
more friends with. They're artistic people, and I'm really excited to collaborate with them. But definitely working with more artists, because people reveal your blind spots. There's just things like hanging out with Johannes. He's such a
Mhm.
great, maybe like a little bit like yourself, not to make any assumptions, but he's very technically minded. And
Mhm.
just in like a 10-minute conversation, he'll point out observations about like composing a scene or a thumbnail. And I'm like, I just don't think like that, and,
Mhm.
and it's so useful. Like, so I would love to do more of that, just get like these altered perspectives, like, and
Mhm.
it doesn't matter the medium. I mean, that's one of the things I've been enjoying on the podcast, right? Is like, I tried to divorce it from my main channel, because the main channel, I love it to be Japan centric. It's cool. I live in Japan. It's a beautiful country. I'm not knocking Japan, but I have a lot of
Mhm.
interests. And so I want to be freed of that having to be quite, I don't have to even be so Japan centric, but I am on that channel. Anyone can
Yeah.
come on here, So like, if you're an architect, come on. If you're someone in green energy, like I want more perspectives. And I've just found it's cool because, I mean, I'd love to hear your experience of this, but it's like interesting how ideas from a totally separate medium can actually inform you and yours. It's weird, like where different sparks come from. Like,
Mhm.
um, you could be talking to a ballerina and they're talking about like where they take energy from and like how they get pumped up to practice or something, but then it gets you excited to like go out and shoot because you're like,
Hmm.
that's where I take energy from, just like I don't think of myself traditionally as like an extroverted person, but I certainly do feed off others' excitement. So
Hmm.
I'm excited to do that. And obviously with moving, I feel this kind of energy towards that because whenever you move, you're like, oh, life is about to change, and that's really really
Hmm.
exciting. Um, oh, that's cool. Is there I guess when I hear from you, it's less about the specific content so much as it is like the spirit of what you're doing. Would you say that's right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I think the things that I want to create is just basically, it's like anything that I do create, I feel like I open myself up and it makes me feel kind of vulnerable in a
Mm.
sense. But I don't want to be too vulnerable at the same time, just like putting stuff that like my heart is into and just have people trash on it all the time. Because like you said, skip to 20 seconds in to watch the actual video. It's like it's the same thing as Instagram. I mean, like any of my posts, if they're not catchy or attractive, people don't like that. If I just shoot something that's a copycat of a famous location, people will like jump onto that, like, flies to manure. But I mean, I want to be able to get to the point where I could share stuff that is very meaningful to me, and people will respect that.
Yes.
I don't think I'm quite there yet because I think right now, unfortunately, as much as I don't want to think about the following contributing to any of this thought, the following is still too small for me to reach a wide enough audience that will be able to actually understand what it is that I want to create.
Okay.
I think a lot of my followers right now are definitely inflated and influenced by other influencers and creators that may have similar tastes to mine but are not the same.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. How would could you like, and this is something I had another guy on recently, um, where I was like, I wanted him to comment on, his name's Tyler Crane. He's a director, uh, big black guy, looks like, a football player or something. I was asking him, what is it that oh, how do I put this exactly? I'm going to struggle with this and I shouldn't. How does he see his style? That's what I'll say. So, and he was like,
Oh,
actually, I have been able to identify a style, and he said something to that effect. But I'm curious, like, do you see a style, or if we don't call it a style, like what is it that like draws your attention when you're making something?
that's a good question. That's hard. That is hard. I guess my underlying sense in the stuff that I've creating has always been the sense of adventure and exploration.
Okay.
Like not in the sense of the whole live, laugh, love type of bullshit that you see everywhere, but just like we were born too late to discover the world and we were born too early to discover the stars. That phrase to me just eats me up inside and I hate it.
I mean that's a fantastic. Where is that from? That's fantastic. That's a really
I
interesting.
for it's a popular quote. It's around. It's
Oh
been
yeah.
around. I forgot exactly who said it, but basically it's the truth. We were born too late to explore the world and we're born way too early to explore the stars. It makes sense. So
Hmm.
for me, it's just like I grew up watching the Indiana Jones movies where
Okay.
Indiana Jones is exploring this this old
Yeah.
temple that
Yeah.
people haven't visited for hundreds of years. He's doing all this like, oh, I love that sense of being that first person to explore this world, to this first person to find this out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the sense that even though Japan also has this like deep history, within Japan alone, there's millions of stories to tell. There's millions of things to go check out. So for
Mm.
me, it's like when I go visit these places for the first time, that sense of wonderment that I'm experiencing when I go visit these places, that's what I want to share with people. I want to share with them a little bit of this sense of wonder and adventure that is still out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't experience it themselves because they can't afford a flight out to Tokyo or with the current situation, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
then at least through me, they could get kind of a log, a log of the journey of what it is to experiencing these things.
That's cool that it becomes, I mean, it really does become really rooted in story, doesn't it? It's like you said, it's like, I now that you say like the Indiana Jones, I think of somebody like finding your travel log, and it
Hmm.
was like, you know, as and even that you said you gave it these specific emotions, that like you've come into like the hidden kingdom, you know, you've chopped away the ferns
Hmm.
with your machete, and then you step out into the hidden valley of so and so. Uh, isn't it cool how digital media, be it a reel, be it the writing that you do, but that it has that power, like a story in 10 seconds, you know, but it's like the Matrix download into you, where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
all that wonder, all that, you know, that's cool. That's, I think that's a great place to go from it. Um,
Yeah.
What's let's go with this. Well, let's go with this then. We'll just do a little nostalgia trip then. Can you think of a
Hmm.
place when you first arrived in Japan that you got that kind of feeling?
Oh, easily, easily. It happened basically in the beginning of the. We were actually not at the beginning, like in December or so. I took a trip out to Iwate with Norm from Tokyo Lens, and we got to experience more about like Iwate, the area itself, and basically the people who used to live there. And of course, it was like a familiarization trip. So it was your basic trip of like, hey, we're gonna dump you all onto this bus, go follow our tour guide to this bunch of boring places that nobody gives a fuck about, right? And we got to this other location, and suddenly like one of the guides was just like, actually, like this place over here, it's kind of a little bit off to the side, but this is the origin of the gods before the Shinto gods. And that immediately cued my attention. I'm like, wait, what the fuck are you talking about? Gods before the Shinto gods? What is this all about? That immediately like pricked my ears. Like, I need to go here. We need to go here right now. We go to this place, and it's surrounded by a forest, and there's a Shinto shrine there, and they have their own gods onto the side. But if you go through the three torii gates just to get to the back of the actual shrine area, there's this huge rock that to the untrained eye is just like, oh, it's just a big rock with rope around it. But the guy was explaining to us, I was like, this is like from the original people who lived here. This is their like primal god. And it
Okay.
was just like, wow, I want to know more, but unfortunately my Japanese isn't good enough to be able to understand the entire story. But it's just that's kind of like the sense of like wonderment that I wanted to be able to share. And I took pictures and I took this and that, but because I didn't understand the story, it's not something that I'd be able to post and reciprocate the feelings that I felt at the time.
Hmm.
So it's a place that I definitely want to go back to. I want to track down this guide that I found, because he said that this isn't the only place. There were several places around the Iwata area that has these primal gods before Shintoism even came about. So it's like if if I could go there and get that story, it's something I would definitely want to share, but it's something that in my heart I know 100% would be boring as hell to anybody reading it except for me.
Okay. Do you think, I mean, I sit here fascinated. Do you think, are you so certain that it wouldn't connect with others?
Absolutely, because how the hell can you make a rock pretty in a picture?
Oh, okay.
It is completely uninteresting.
I suppose I'm thinking of in a story. The story of
In
it
a
is
story,
interesting.
yes. If I could take a
In
video of it, yes.
the picture, yes, less less.
Yeah, it's literally just a rock with a
Yeah.
stupid rope around
Yeah.
it. You know, don't strike me down with lightning,
Yeah,
please,
yeah.
God. But
It's old school
yeah,
gods you're
it's
insulting. Yes.
yeah. But I mean
Okay.
that's the case. I've had many situations that were like that, where like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. I had no idea such a thing existed, or maybe it tugged at my heartstrings so much that it stayed with me forever. But it's not something that I could convey on the internet via a picture and a paragraph or two.
Hmm.
People need to be kind of in the moment for these type of things. The one of the other biggest examples I could give is that we went to Fureai Sato no Mori or something like that. It's basically in Toyama Prefecture, where there's this stone statue garden that's along the hillside, and everybody always treats it as like, oh wow, it's so creepy, all these creepy statues, the faces are so realistic, I bet they move at night. So society's biggest draw of this is like, ooh, spooky scary skeletons and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the story behind it is this guy wanted to commemorate everybody in the village, and because he was so rich, he just basically asked all the citizens to come up. He'll take a picture. He'll send that picture to China. Some factory in China will create these stone effigies with them that looks very similar. And he basically just started using this mountainside to just start putting everybody up in their stone form.
There's
And
a
it was just
wild
like,
story again.
yeah, like he just wanted to memorize the town and everybody as it was. Now, mind you, it's like all the people are dead except for maybe like a handful, 10, 20 or so people, right? But
Hmm.
like everybody's statue is on there. And because society always treats it as a spooky, scary spot, how how can I convey of how like touched I was or how moved I was at this really kind of selfless service that this guy who had all this money kind of did. He just wanted to memorialize everybody in the town at the time.
Hmm.
And it's not something that I feel that current generations are interested in hearing, you know? People want to see TikTok dances. People want to see cute videos. They want to see a dog pooping on a wall. And for some reason, that'll give you 1 million hits, 2 million hits. But you try to actually give a humanizing, empathizing story. People don't seem to want that anymore.
There's definitely, I don't know, maybe I'm naive, but I hold out hope that those kind of stories still connect with people, or at least they connect in a way that allows the person who tells them to sustain themselves. That it's enough that you connect with enough people, um, where, and almost to your betterment, that it doesn't connect with more, because it's like the more that people like you, the more that people hate you, that you can tell
Mm.
those kind of stories to who wants to hear it. Because I mean, I sit here and I'm like, I am not that unique, but like when you tell me those stories, I find it fascinating. Like I find that interesting, and I'm like, I can't be alone in that. I'm sure there's people, um, if only because it's original ideas are engaging. Whereas like you just described, these spooky thing, that's the common, I would call it like distortion of the story. But
Hmm.
the truth is stranger than the fiction. It's like, well, that's just a regular old ghost story. But did you know it was for the love of this town that this individual man had each person's effigy carved? Like, what an act of, oh, the humanity, like what an act
Yeah.
there. And there's something like very, when I listen to it, kind of like bittersweet. It's like also this kind of like because we fall apart because of entropy, and this guy's like trying to hold this like beautiful village together in the only way that he knows how, and how what he did is kind of beautiful, but it's also like it puts on display the sadness, because these are not the people. it's
Hmm.
it's it's his act, and his act is really, really beautiful, but it's not actually retaining what he wanted, because it's not the town. But it is really beautiful because it's him. There's like layers and
Yeah,
layers of
yeah.
like beauty and sadness and complexity there. That's a great story, Victor. Right on. That's cool.
I
Um,
mean that's the stuff that I would like to get more into. But like as I mentioned earlier, it kind of like leaves myself vulnerable in telling these stories because
mm,
it may mean a lot, not vulnerable as in like, oh no, my butt's gonna be hurt if I don't get 100 likes, but
right.
more vulnerable in the sense of just like it means a lot to me.
Hmm.
So if I put something out there and if it's just gonna be dissed, then like it just makes me weep for humanity.
I hear you, man. I hear you. It's everybody can make this statement. It's like, oh, haters gonna hate, but hate sucks. It's that's why people kill themselves. That's why, because it really, really
Mhm.
sucks when people attack what you love and attack you and the things that you love. So not it's not complicated. I respect that. I understand that. Um, but to return to your point about the sort of style that you seek out, that's really cool. This sort of like a sense of wonder, you know,
Mhm.
that's very, very interesting. Um, I'm kind of curious if you ever had like a genesis moment. Whereas obviously you grew into that. Everybody changes, but I'm wondering like what like probably that's a value that's been instilled in you from some point in your life. Like where did you discover that sense of wonder? Because not everybody cares about going out the door. Not everybody cares about finding that. Like where in your life could you see that originated, or that you really started to appreciate this sense of exploration? Maybe the Indiana Jones films.
Honestly, I think the whole growing up and watching these adventure movies had a significant impact, but living in California, I was lazy as hell. I didn't do anything. I was very much addicted
Okay.
to the vice of doing my everyday things. I
Mm-hmm.
think the genesis would be moving out to Japan.
Okay.
I think ever since I moved out to Japan, like Japan as a whole, obviously I came to Japan. It's like, oh wow, sushi, samurai, kimono, this and that. Wow, it's so anime. Wow, sugoi. And like I treated it like that for like the first month. And then
Okay.
afterwards I was just like, oh wow, it's like it's a legit it's a country. It has its own things. Wait a minute. If it has its own things, then like what's the difference between Hokkaido and Okinawa? Oh, do you mean there's two different types of people? You have like the Ryogoku, which is original Okinawa, kingdom, and then you have the Ainu people who were, owned like Hokkaido and stuff, and the Japanese people actually held conquest against them, and that's why there's so few of them left anymore. They had their own society, they had their own lifestyle and everything. Ryogoku, their king was taken over. They had their own language and everything, mannerisms and everything, own language. It's just like it blows my mind that there's in this tiny island of Japan,
Mm.
there's so much culture, there's so much history, there's so many stories, there's so many legends, and foreigners are just stuck with conveyor belt sushi go brr, you know? And
Yeah.
like, so when I first came out here after like the first year or so, I was just like, I want to see and I want to experience everything that Japan has to offer. And I felt guilty because as a Southern California native, I didn't even go to Yosemite for God's sakes. I went to Route 66 once. I never went to the Grand Canyon. I never went to this, which is like I have that feeling of like, wow, I done fucked up in California and I didn't even explore my own hometown. So now that I'm in Japan, I don't want to waste this opportunity. So that's why I kind of make it an effort to try to go out to all these places, try to cover them as much as possible, and share that information with anybody who's pretty much willing to watch or listen.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. I mean, it sounds like I mean, to me, that's like, it's a story arc that grows, right? Because, people who have nothing to learn are usually, they're called flat characters. Anyways, that's like, more traditionally a character that has to metamorphosize, has an engaging storyline. So you were like, if we drew you into a screenplay, you'd be this like ungrateful layabout, didn't appreciate his hometown, but then uprooted and left on like this alien planet he came to appreciate, blah blah blah. It's like it's a cool story arc. I like it.
It's
I
pretty
like
much
it. It's
there in a
engaging.
nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really really interesting. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on, Victor. We kind of said it at the beginning. Frame of travel. Victor is a photographer, hobbyist. I think that's not in any way doing justice to the sort of quality of the stuff that you create. But we'll let sleeping dogs lie. That's okay. Check out his Instagram. Also, your YouTube channel as well, Victor.
It's yeah, everything all around is frame of travel.
Oh, okay. That makes it
Yeah.
easy for people. Thank you so much for coming on. And if we're not going so late, I'm sure we could go for like another hour or so, but we'll call it
I
there.
imagine so.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Please do rate if you're on iTunes or wherever else. It's all over the place there. And I really appreciate you listening. But that's all for now. Peace.